Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day two of Enlighten, uh, Dean Dorton Customer Conference for our Sage Intacct Ecosphere. We are delighted to have you all here today. Hopefully, there's some returnees from day one who found everything so enlightening, not to use a pun there, but found it all enlightening and wanted to come back for day two to learn even more. I hope there's certainly a lot of those, and maybe we even have some new folks coming in here for day two. So excited to see everybody. I thoroughly enjoyed yesterday. I thought there were a great number of presentations. Believe it or not, there were some first time presenters in that pack yesterday, and I think they all did a wonderful job. So I'm excited to see what we can do here in day two. To kick things off, we're going to have a presentation, a little bit from myself, a little bit from another gentleman, Chris Jordan, and a little bit from Mitzi Stockford, who's going to tell you about fixed asset tool here. But to get things going, what I wanted to first do is, in addition to welcoming you, I want to go ahead and get you back into the spirit of participating in polls. So I'm going to leave this up here for a moment. And I just realized I didn't even tell you who I am. So if you came yesterday, you know who I am. If we've talked before, you know who I am. But if we haven't, and you haven't met me before, my name is Philip Massey. I am a director here at Dean Dorton. I have the privilege of working with this team of individuals who are, as I like to call them, recovering accountants who have decided that we like working with technology and software more than we do the daily crunching of the numbers. And we're just a team of accounting and technology geeks that like working with organizations and helping improve processes and gain greater efficiencies. And I'm proud to be a part of that team. So that should give you a time here to get into your polls. And we're going to start things off with a fun poll. One of the things I always say about conferences and meetings is it's good to have them to be as interactive and engaging as possible. And what better way to be engaging than to jump into a Halloween poll? And I have a feeling since I shared this way, it's probably not going to work. So I apologize. Give me just one moment. I'm going to stop sharing and do it the correct way for the poll EV. Hold on just one second. I'm sorry. Go ahead and
It's
vote.
okay, Philip. I've got you.
You got me? Okay. All
Yeah, I
right.
got you.
And that's the voice of Nikki. Nikki's always got me on this, and I really appreciate that. I'm so glad that Nikki is here. And as I said yesterday, Nikki is the driving force behind all of this. So not only does she have me, she's got everybody else on this call, including you, with it. So what are you dressing up for as Halloween? Just go ahead and put that in the prompt there. So we got some people dressing up as accountants now. I do have to kind of wonder about that, guys, because you are supposed to be accountants. So does that mean you're not really accountants or football players, ghosts? Nothing seems to be the biggest word we've got going on here. Dressing up as a mom. I like it. Superman. Now, we may have to have an internal discussion here at Dean Dorton. We have somebody that we know affectionately as Superman, so we may have to discuss that with whoever's doing that, unless that, of course, happens to be related to that person. So, all right. So I appreciate that. We've got the poll piece working. That's got everybody's kind of juices flowing on that polls. I really do appreciate that, and thank you, Nikki, for showing that. And let me get back over to where we are with our slides. So we have a couple of objectives with this presentation. So this is going to be myself. It's going to be Mitzi Stockford, who's going to take you through the fixed assets piece. And then myself, we're going to go over the forms tool. It's a new module that's been released for Intacct in the last year to year and a half. We're going to talk about it, give a demonstration of it. Same thing for Mitzi with the fixed assets piece. So with all of that said, I think that it would be a good time to turn this over to Mitzi. And if you want to take it away, ma'am. And you're on mute, Mitzi. Sorry.
There, I fixed that. Thank you. And so fixed assets, as Philip said, is a new module that's in Sage Intacct, came in early this year. And, you know, there are other fixed asset solutions that were already out there. And I want to tell you, you know, what's special about this and why you might be interested in it. So first of all, it's native to Sage Intacct, and that gives us a lot of capabilities and some improvements by having that. First of all, it creates an asset dimension, and that asset dimension makes it easy for you to use financial reports to report on your assets. And you have easy access to all the other dimensions that are in the system. When you're creating an asset, you can tag it to an employee and other things like that. The drill downs are easier. It's more easily implemented. And one of the things I absolutely love is you don't have to worry about upgrades. You don't have to work with a third party or do an installation or make a request for an upgrade, because it is a module in Sage Intacct. So when the releases come out, if there's improvements in fixed assets, they'll just be there on the day that they're supposed to be, and you can see that in the release notes and get that information very easily with what's been done with that. But there's other benefits to this product. So I mentioned the financial reports. You also can do custom reports. You can create dashboards with those reports and with other things. And you're not limited on the number of books you have. So let's say you're doing one sort of depreciation method for your financial books, but then maybe you have a couple of different jurisdictions that you have to do taxes to, and they need something different on those. Those could actually be posted to separate books, and you can create as many different books as you want. And so when you run your financial report, you can choose, are we doing the GAAP one, or are we doing the tax depreciation one? And it's all under your control and you're not limited there. Another really cool feature is the automatic depreciation, and that can be turned on with literally a check mark in a box. And what it does is, so your depreciation schedules are all set up and it's supposed to happen on a certain date, it just happens. Without you having to go in. But that is an option. So if you don't like that idea and you'd rather have the control of saying, okay, that's fine too. You just don't check the box, and I'll show you how that posting takes place in the demo that I'll do in just a little bit. Another option that you have is, with this product, you can do things at top level or entity level, and you don't have to make a choice that it's only top level or it's only entity level. At the beginning of everything, it can actually happen at both. Probably you want to do one or the other, but you're not restricted to that with this. It will integrate with accounts payable and in purchasing. So when you're buying a asset and you've got an invoice in purchasing, or you've got a bill you're putting into accounts payable, the asset can be created directly from that. And I will show that as well. And the implementation is much easier. I already mentioned, since it's not a third party, the upgrades are easier, but also, besides being able to just subscribe to it after it's been enabled, the structure of the program is, you don't have to do a whole lot to set it up. I mean, of course you have to do things, and I will show you what those things are, but that's one of the things that's good about this. And all right, so here's our first poll, and I think I'll need your help, Nikki, on that.
Sure, no problem.
Going. But basically, I just wanted to get a feel for what what are you currently using? Are you already using Sage Fixed Asset Management? Maybe you've got a standalone product, or you're just doing it in spreadsheets or handing it off to your accountant. Just go ahead and let us know where you're at. Lots of different options here. And some of you are already on the product. That's great. Right? Everybody got theirs in? All right, now you should be able to see it. Okay, so this is a dashboard here, and we've got some financial reports, and we've got performance cards like we did yesterday. And we're able to do this because we have this asset dimension right here that lets you do a grouping of assets by using dimension structures, which is cool. And just to get just warmed up here, I am going to go and put an AP bill in. But this AP bill, I'm going to buy an asset with it. And so this first part, AP bills, you fill in whatever fields are required or important to your company. All just normal AP stuff. I've got a multi-currency company here for my sample. You may not have these fields. They're not related to assets. They're just part of my sample company. But the way to do this, so let's say I'm buying a big shelf unit, and so that it's furnitures and fixtures, and I'm choosing my asset account, still just normal AP stuff. Then, of course, you have to fill in whatever dimensions are required by your system. So location, of course, you may need to do departments or whatever the ones that you need to do. And this is all still normal AP. Here's our new stuff. I've got a name of the acquired asset. And right here, you choose to name it. You can be whatever it needs to be. So we'll just make a fancy shelf. I'm sure you'd have better names for your assets. And now the next field is the asset. This is actually the asset dimension field. So you don't do anything when you're creating this. You just leave that field blank, and it will get populated automatically by the fixed asset module. And so if you come back later to this bill and are looking at things, you can see what asset was created when you made this. You also, if you have any other dimensions that you need to tag, all your dimensions, whatever you have set up in your company will be here. Like if I wanted to assign this to a particular employee, like maybe if it was a laptop or something, you might. And so you go ahead and fill that in. So once you've got everything in, and you could do multiple lines and add several different assets and maybe some assets and some other things. They can all go in there. And then we post that. Okay, so right now I've posted my bill, and it's going to bring me up to the bills list, but I've also created an asset already. So we just come over here and let's go to fixed asset management, and I'm going to go to the asset list. So the asset list here, so this is the new, if you've gone into the beta, you've seen this layout already. So this is genuine Sage Intacct layout. We can use all these top filters to sort things by, and like if I just wanted to see the furniture and fixtures, I can choose that and limit my list like that. We also have filters up here where we can do more advanced filtering. But look, there's my asset. It's already here. So go ahead and click on that, and it drills down immediately to the asset record. Now, this asset right now is ready for review. It's status. So that's what happens when you do it from purchasing or a bill. It'll come over here and in review status. And you get a chance to come in here and say, okay, I need to put its serial number in, or I have an asset tag for it. So you come in here and fill in any additional things, maybe if you want to do an attachment to it. And then here's the classification, and I'm going to give you more detail about the asset classifications and how they're created. But the reason this already popped in with furniture and fixtures is because I chose the account that's associated with this classification. And so it fills in all these default fields automatically for me, but they can be overridden, which in some of the other solutions, the class that it's in rules it. But we can actually override this. And then here you can put in all the dimensions that, if there were additional things you wanted to do or you wanted to change something about this. But notice it already references the vendor, the department, all of that was in the bill. So once you've edited that the way you want, it saves the asset. It's still just ready for review. I haven't placed it in service yet. There is a spot for doing that. But before I do that, there's one other thing that happens in the asset, and that's the depreciation rules. These depreciation rules actually did come in again automatically because of the classification that it was put to, but I can override these as well. So you can come in here, like for instance, this classification is set to do 3 different books. You may only have one line here if you're only doing financials, but it's got a US tax and an international tax. Well, if this shelf is going to stay in the US all the time, I don't need to be reporting it to there. So I could come over here and just delete this rule. So it won't do a schedule for that one, but it will do 2 other schedules for the 2 different books. We can also come in here and create a completely new one, maybe just for this asset. And we would choose our posting rule, and I will explain those shortly. And when we choose a posting rule, it would tell you what book it's in and what convention it's using and so forth. And then here's where you choose your depreciation methods. And these are the 4 depreciation methods that are currently available in Sage Fixed Asset Management. And here you can set the useful life. Don't actually need to do that for this asset, so I'll cancel that out. And one other thing that you can do is you can edit one. And so the edit will let you, this classification has the assets automatically setting to 72 months, but you could come in here and change that if this asset needed to be depreciated differently. You can change that and save it. Okay, so right now we have no depreciation schedules yet made because we haven't placed it in service. But to place it in service, we just click this button. We choose the date that it's going to be in service. So it could even be next month. This in-service date, of course, is either the same as the acquisition or later. And then click Save. And now we have schedules. And I could actually come and click on this and view it. And it's made all my schedules for me. And if I've got the system set up to automatically post when November 30th comes around, it'll post this. And when December comes around, it'll post this. All right, so that's how you make an asset. And it's not very much different when you're in purchasing or just going manually directly into fixed asset management. Let's talk about the setup. So setup, notice there's one thing here, and I click on configuration. And there's really not a whole lot of things here. And so first thing is you choose what sequencing you want for your numbers. So this is just the automatic numbering like you do for customers or vendors, or maybe you do it for invoices. We just set up a sequencer and then choose it in here. And I'm going to skip posting rules for a moment and get back to those. Here's where you get to choose, do we want to make assets out of bills? Do we want to make them when we're doing vendor invoices? You can either not have these checked and just make them directly in the module itself, or you can add AP, or you can add AP and purchasing. Can't do purchasing without AP. And here's that little checkbox that I mentioned, that if we click on this, it would enable automatic posting. You do have to turn on scheduled jobs in the company configuration to make that work, but that's the only two pieces you need for that. And I'll go ahead and hit edit so you can see what these screens look like. So right here, you choose the GL account that you would hit normally when you're posting disposal. It will do disposals. It only does full disposals at this time, not partial disposals, but I believe that's on the roadmap for the future. And if you have non-depreciable assets, you would choose here the journal that you want it to post to when you're disposing of one of those. And then this is when the go live date is when you decided to switch from whatever you've been using to using the Sage Fixed Asset Management. So once you've set these things up and saved it, the thing that's left is the journal posting rules. And so the journal posting rules, let me create one or show you what the creation. You give it an ID, you give it a name, just like we do with so many other things. And then you choose the journal that you want this one to post to. So let's say I wanted it to go to this journal. Then we choose our convention, which is either full month or half year or full year. And then whether the useful life is measured in months or is it measured in years. So once you do that, once it's saved, you have to save it. And then when you go back into it to edit it, that's when we get to set our depreciation. Oops. Sorry, we do that in depreciation rules. I'll get there in just a minute. All right, so we've created our rules that we want here. And then let's talk about the other thing. We're almost ready to make assets. Once you've done that, there's one more thing you have to do, and that's the asset classifications. That's a huge part of this, and that's your main thing that you'll have to think about. And so these are like normal classifications. You can name them whatever you want. And let me just hit the create. So if I was going to make a new class here, I give it an ID, I give it a name, and then I choose what its default GL accounts are. Once that is done and you save it, when you come back in to the classification, you get to add in the depreciation rules. So when adding in a depreciation rule, you would just hit create. And then you would choose the journal that you're making it for, and you choose your depreciation method and what the useful life is. So what's the default? And you kind of saw me doing this where I was overriding it when I was making that asset. But this is where you put in what the defaults are for each classification. These are the depreciation methods I'm going to use, what books they're going to. Those are all taken care of in here. These are the default information. And so that's why when I created the asset that I did earlier, it was in furniture and fixtures. So it automatically brought in all of this information that I could override it when I was on the asset itself. So that is actually all the setup that there is you do the configuration, put your journal posting rules in, and you go to asset classifications and set up as many as you need for the different GL accounts that you'll be going to. And there's where you add your depreciation rules. So once all of that's set up, you can make your assets If you wanted to make it just directly, like they're already on the books and you need to put them in and all, you just hit create here and start making your asset. You can also import. So if you're coming in, you've had it on spreadsheets or you had it in something else and you want to change over to this, there's a template for it right in the company data, but where you find all your other templates, or most of them anyway. And it uses the new import system, so it's really nice. It's great to work with. And then the last thing is, so if I don't turn on automatic depreciation, how do I post it? And also you can use this even if you do have automatic, you can look at what's the schedules that are out there. If you wanted to look, of course, one asset, you can look at one of them, but if you want to look at a bunch of them, you can use this to do it and you can filter it. So typically the way that you would post is filter it for a particular, at the end of this month. So I want to do May. And then it has all the assets that are scheduled to be posted on this day. And I can just select them all and then hit post depreciation. And then notice it says it's going to send me an email when the process is complete. And I hit post. And it also tells you here that you can view the depreciation run. And you can use this to see, like, especially if you've got a long, lots of assets in there, it's going to be queued up for a bit, and then it'll start using them, and the status will change to in progress, and you can see exactly where you are and whether or not you're getting errors. But you don't have to click on it right then. You can always come back to it and look at the list that way. So, and that's actually the end of my demo. So hand this back over. Philip wants to.
So we actually had a question in the chat for you, Mitzi.
Happy to answer that.
Do we have any word on when or if straight line half-year monthly depreciation will be added to the product?
I haven't seen that. Now, one thing you can do, though, is you can use the daily method. And of course, it doesn't do a half month, but it actually does it by the day. And that one works pretty well. And they may add that. I think they probably will, but I don't know where that is in the roadmap. They got a lot of stuff coming in the roadmap. It's real nice.
Thanks. And Philip, I'll turn it over to you now.
All right, thank you. Mitzi, I'll just say again, another great presentation on the fixed assets piece. So if you guys have any fixed asset questions, Mitzi is the fixed asset guru within the organization. So glad to have her to do that one. All right. So to kick things off here for what I am going to talk to you about, it is the new Sage Intacct Forms and Operational Flows module. This is a tool that allows you to build forms and collect data and use workflows to process that information. So my question for you in this poll is, which form building tool have you used before? Every organization has at least one form in it, and I want to know what you all have used before. And it could be paper, of course. I figured we'd see a lot of Google and Microsoft type things, but just kind of wanted to see where we wind up. Looks like Google is in the lead, which makes a lot of sense. It's a free tool. Microsoft Forms is a free tool as well. Okay, so we've got some experience with forms. It looks like Google's a leader. That's really kind of what I expected to see. So I appreciate those responses. So the agenda for my presentation here, take you through a few things. One, we're going to talk about what this is. This is a new feature, new component within the Sage Intacct stack. We're going to talk about what the value prop is, what some use cases might be. I'm going to tell you what the pricing is, because the pricing is very straightforward and very well laid out. Talk about some success stories. And then hopefully we can roll into a product demonstration as well. So to kick things off then, let's talk about the solution itself. So one of the things I said a moment ago was every organization has forms, and that I believe to be 100% true. Every organization has some type of form, whether it's an employee onboarding form, whether it's a PTO request form, whatever it may be, everybody has some type of form. A lot of those form building tools aren't really intuitive that are on the market today. Some are not making any judgments, but they may not be. In this particular case with Sage Intacct Forms and Operational Flows, it is a drag and drop tool. It will handle any kind of form that you could really come up with, and it can also create portals for that. So I'll talk about some examples later, but imagine, if you would, a vendor portal where you could have a form that goes out and you could have a vendor portal to help manage that entire process, both from internal with your organization as well as external to your organization. And one of the great things about this tool is, of course, it's called the Sage Intacct Forms and Operational Flows. So it does have that ability to drive data into Sage Intacct as it's needed, right? So this tool is something that can replace a lot of other components within your organization and give you that interface into Sage Intacct. And that could be for things like a vendor portal flow, award letters for grant making type of things, quarterly reporting or something of that nature, perhaps with a portal and a workflow. Employee management, it could be, PTO requests, it could really be anything that you would want to use it for, tied to Intacct, or even, again, not tied to Intacct, because first and foremost, this is a forms tool. So PTO requests, great. Customer onboarding, vendor onboarding, all of that, great. Any of that type of thing can be done with the solution. So I do like to keep you on your toes a little bit here. So how many manual data collection or approval processes does your organization have today? So think about what you have within your company. How much of that is manual? And I would consider and argue that manual could be, you get a PTO request on a Google form, and then somebody's got to go take that and do something with it, right? You have to go take that and put it on a calendar. You have to manually take it and get some level of approval for it. Maybe it's an expense report, and you've got to manually get this approved when it comes in through the Adobe PDF or anything like that. So how much are you doing manually today? And I see we've got a brave soul or two up there willing to say they're not doing anything manual today. And I don't know if that's, we're not doing anything with forms today, or all of our forms are completely and totally automated, right? So sounds like we've got a good set of a good mix of responses there. So I think definitely those with the 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 10 plus, and maybe even the I don't knows, this could be a really good module and tool for you to take a look at. So what's the value proposition? Why would I want to buy this module? Well, this lets you create custom forms and gather data across your entire ecosystem, eliminate email and paper-based approvals, and collect and drive that data straight into the end application, for example, Sage Intacct. So not only are you gathering this data, but you're taking it and you're pushing it to where it really needs to be. An example of that would be vendor contracting, forms, workflows, and portals. You've got a form that the vendor might need to fill out some type of agreement to work with your organization. That form is then going to be pushed through an approval process. And one of the actions that that approval process can take is to interact with that vendor portal and display that information back so that that vendor can see, has my application been approved? Do they need any additional information from me? Are there more forms for me to fill out? have I been created in their accounting system so that now I've been assigned a vendor ID and I can start to submit bills, which could be the next step in this whole vendor contracting piece, an AP submission portal as well, right? Get them signed up as vendors, get that interacted with Intacct, and then take that portal to the next step to allow your vendors to be able to submit invoices through that portal, which then can be read with the AP automation tool and pushed into the Intacct application. If you're a nonprofit, think of the things you could do with grant making and donations with this tool, right? Really a lot of possibilities out there. If you're managing a lot of grants and you're managing a lot of grant recipients, this portal, this tool could truly help you manage that and interact with all aspects of purchasing, vendor management, any of that kind of thing inside of the Sage Intacct application. So you might think that this tool is complicated to use. Well, it's not. First of all, it is a drag and drop interface. So you're really designing it on screen as you're pulling these things together. Second, they come with a plethora, don't know why that changed, a plethora of forms for you to pick from as starter templates. There's even a vendor portal form. There's a grant application form that's already built and running and out there. You just have to add it to your environment and tweak it to your needs. So it's not difficult. And in fact, most organizations will say that customers can be live in 45 to 60 days with this product. Okay. So when we talk about the product, everybody's always going to ask price. You see the price right here in front of you. Up to 15 users in the portal, $4,000 US, 5,400 Canadian. 50 users, $6,000. These are annual prices. But for what functionality you get out of this, I personally think that is a tremendous deal to be able to get an application that can be a forms tool, it can be a portal tool, and it can interact with not only Sage Intacct, but a number of other applications to have those workflows and pass that data. Now, today we're going to give you a small sample of the product, but we do have a full hour on the forms and operational flows module on December 17th from 2 to 3. Keep an eye out on our events registration page and our wonderful Nikki, who is going to make sure that everybody knows what's going on with our webinars that we're having. So we invite you to come back for that. And we have worked with Sage so that Dean Dorton clients who attend, or let me rephrase that, people who attend Dean Dorton's Enlighten program, webinar series that we're having, when they attend this conference, you'll get a 15% discount on forms and operational flows through December 27th, 2024. So if you buy it before December 27th, 2024, if you subscribe to it, you will get a 15% discount. Nobody else gets that. Dean Dorton only, 15% discount through December 27th. I really just felt like the ShamWow guy there for a moment, but that's what I got for you. 15% discount off the tool. So it's time for the demo. Nikki, do we have Chris? Technical difficulties. Okay, well, all right, so we probably won't have a demonstration for you today. I do apologize for that. It is a very nice looking tool. Chris Jordan, so that you have some background, is the original founder of the OmniDeck organization. And OmniDeck is the organization that built the forms and reports tool. It is a tool that's licensed by Sage, fully integrates with Sage, sold through Sage Intacct, but Chris is with the organization that originally developed the software. So we do have the December 17th webinar. We would encourage you to come to that. There will be a full demonstration of the software then. I will share some of these case stories that Chris was going to talk about as well. So this is a place where Sage Forms and Operational Flows replaced a 6-figure SharePoint implementation. So again, this isn't just about how do I get data into Sage Intacct. This is forms and operational flows replacing a SharePoint implementation. 50 plus forms and workflows, 30-day implementation and deployment. They saved $167,000 over 3 years and a 3.2-month return on their investment. They also replaced Zendesk as well. So you can read more about this online. We can send you that information as well. We'll talk about it again, I'm sure, during the webinar that we have on the 17th. And then last but not least, this is the largest FormStack client by volume, replaced FormStack with Sage Forms and Operational Flows. So these guys were a new Intacct customer. They were FormStack's largest customer by volume and number of transactions that they processed. Over 1 billion in AP processed via a vendor portal experience. So VenPort is actually an organization that helps manage vendors on behalf of other companies. They then took and replaced FormStack with Sage Forms and Operational Flows, saved a tremendous amount of money and effort and time by doing that, but completely replaced their entire FormStack implementation. Okay. So the key takeaway that I'll leave you with here, and again, I apologize for the lack of a demo, but join us December 17th, and I promise we'll have a very good demonstration at that point. Sage Intacct Forms and Operational Flows enables Sage Intacct users to manage the flows of your business, gather data, and interact with others within your ecosphere. Bring all that together in one centralized location. Mobile forms, website links, branded portals, all of that brings that information together and puts it within your reach so that not only can you collect all of that data, but you can transfer it over into other systems such as Sage Intacct and other applications. All right. Any questions on the tool? Open it up if you have anything at all that you wanted to ask.
I think that you've answered all the questions, Philip, but I'll throw out one for attendees. If you want to throw it in the chat, what are some forms you have today that you might want to replace with a portal that integrates with Sage Intacct?
It's an excellent question, Nikki. I would also take that a little bit further. Does anyone have a recognition of a desire for a vendor portal or a better way to onboard vendors within your organization? Vendor workflows, vendor approvals, making sure you get all their 1099 type information, get them set up in the system properly, have the correct contacts and email addresses and all that stuff. Does anybody have, issues with that kind of thing that they'd like to solve? Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate your time today. Again, I apologize for the demonstration. That's how it goes, I guess, sometimes with technology and other providers to get brought into situations. So I apologize for that, but please do join us December 17th. It'll be a full demonstration of the Sage Forms and Operational Flows tool, and we'll get that invitation out to you shortly so that you can get signed up for it.